Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games and part 3 of this How to Play Horus Heresy series. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll be taking you through the movement phase. In the previous videos we've gone through the general principles, the characteristics, and had a look at the turn sequence and reactions, but now it's time to look at the movement phase. During the movement phase, the active player can move each of their units up to a distance equal to their movement characteristic. Sometimes a unit will move through difficult terrain, and if it chooses to move through difficult terrain, that unit applies a modifier of -2 to the distance it moves in that phase. Now let's talk about which models are moving, because whether or not a model moves can change how effective it will be in the shooting and assault phases. The active player may decide that only some of the models in a unit are going to move this turn. If this is the case, they must declare which models are remaining stationary before moving the other models of that unit, otherwise the entire unit is considered to have moved. But remember that all models in the unit must still maintain their unit coherency. Units can also increase their movement by running. If the active player chooses to run with any of their units, that unit increases their movement by the value of the lowest initiative characteristic in the unit for the duration of the movement phase. A unit that runs may not make shooting attacks during the following shooting phase or declare charges during the assault phase. And if any models in a unit run, then all the models in that unit are counted as having run. Units making a reaction during their opponent's turn may never choose to run as part of that reaction. Let's look at some of the other rules associated with movement. Sometimes a unit will contain models that move at different speeds. When this is the case, each model can move up to its maximum movement allowance as long as it remains in unit coherency. Sometimes models will get in the way, and a model cannot move to a position within 1 inch of an enemy model unless they are charging into combat in the assault phase. This means that your models will have to move around the other models. The active player can choose not to move their models in a unit, but they can choose to pivot them on the spot instead and move them to face in any direction. If a model only pivots on the spot, then they count as being stationary for all purposes, including the subsequent shooting attacks. There's an important rule for moving and close combat, and units already locked in combat with the enemy cannot move during the movement phase. Let's look at moving through terrain now, and as part of their move, models can move through, up, or over any terrain they encounter, unless the terrain is noted as being impassable. If you decide to climb with your units, then simply add the horizontal distance and the vertical distance the model has moved. Some terrain will have rules that affect how far your models can move, and all these rules can be found on page 220 onwards from the core book. We've talked about unit coherency a little bit, so let's focus on that now. Once a unit has finished moving, the models that comprise it must be no more than 2 inches horizontally and 6 inches vertically away from another model in the unit, and this is what is referred to as unit coherency. During the course of a game, a unit can get broken up and lose unit coherency. If this happens, in their next movement phase, the models must be moved in such a way that they restore that unit coherency. If the unit cannot move in its next turn or is unable to restore unit coherency in a single turn, then the models must move to restore unit coherency as soon as they have the opportunity, including by running if they have that option. Now we've covered the basic rules for movement, so come and join me for part 4 of the series where we'll be looking at the shooting phase. If you're finding this video series helpful and you'd like to support the channel, then there's loads of ways you can do that. You can join my Patreon, buy a copy of my book Weekend Warriors, or leave a super thanks down below. If you're interested in picking up a copy of the Age of Darkness box set for yourself, or any of the additional sets or rulebooks, then I'll put some links in the description, and there you can save up to 20% on the retail price, and you also help support the channel too, as I get a small commission from every sale made. I'd like to say a huge thank you to this month's sponsors and supporters who've made this series possible by sponsoring the channel or sending products for me to use. I'd also like to say thank you to my Patreon supporters for your ongoing support throughout the year. It's just amazing. Thanks so much for watching. If you did like it, please hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.